There are two metals you can bury in damp dirt that stop every insect from entering a 20-foot radius around your camp. Not slow them down, not reduce the population, stop them completely. Mosquitoes turn away mid-flight, flies retreat, gnats scatter. The entire system costs $2 in wire from any hardware store. No batteries, no chemicals, no spray cans, no citronella smoke. Just two dissimilar metals buried in moist soil connected by a single strand of wire. The voltage comes from the earth itself. In 1749, a French court physicist documented insects fleeing electrified soil. In 1841, a Scottish clockmaker powered a device for months using nothing but buried copper and zinc. By 1912, scientists across Europe presented overwhelming evidence at an international conference. Then the chemical industry spent the next century burying this knowledge deeper than the metals themselves. They did not suppress it because the science was wrong. They suppressed it because a $2 solution that works forever cannot compete with a $12 spray can that runs out in hours. What cannot be sold repeatedly cannot generate profit. And what threatens $5.5 billion in annual revenue must be erased from memory. This is the story of the buried metals that stop insects and the chemical giants who made you forget they exist. Welcome to Forbidden Camping. If you're not subscribed, hit subscribe and the bell right now. This is where we dig up what the outdoor industry buried. Paris, 1747. Abbé Nollet serves as physicist to the King of France. He fills two identical vessels with the same earth and plants mustard seeds in both. Then he runs electricity through one vessel 10 hours daily. Same soil, same seeds, same conditions. Within 3 days, the electrified seeds sprout. The control seeds remain dormant. By week 1, the electrified plants stand taller with deeper roots. But Nollet notices something no one discusses for the next 270 years. Insects avoid the charged vessel entirely. Small flies cluster around the control pot only. He publishes this in 1749. The scientific community reads it and forgets it completely. Edinburgh, Scotland, 1841. Alexander Bain is a clockmaker obsessed with electrical current. He buries a copper plate and a zinc plate 1 meter apart in damp soil. He connects them with wire. His meter reads approximately 1 volt. No battery acid, no generator, just moisture conducting ions between dissimilar metals. He calls it the earth battery. It powers his clock for months. But something happens around those buried plates. Earthworms cluster between the metals. Biting flies that plagued his workshop vanish. Bain documents this, but focuses on electrical generation instead of pest control. 3 years later, in 1845, a Scottish landowner named Robert Forrester reads about Bain's work. He installs copper and zinc systems across his barley fields near Elgin. He publishes results in the British Cultivator in March 1845. Pest damage drops to near zero, no aphids destroying shoots, no beetles chewing stalks, no swarms of flies at dusk. An invisible perimeter stands around his entire property. Edward Solly, Fellow of the Royal Society, calls the results remarkable in a published letter. The agricultural establishment acknowledges the evidence and then does absolutely nothing with it. The 1920s in rural France, a farmer named Justin Christoflo builds antenna configurations across his fields, 25-foot wooden posts with spiral windings of copper wire and galvanized zinc wire. His oats grow over 7 feet tall without a single application of fertilizer. He states in published records that the electrical current destroys all insects attacking his crops. His fields operate completely pest-free for years without any chemical intervention. In 1912, before Christoflo's work, an international conference on agricultural electricity convenes. Scientists from 6 European nations present data on soil electrification and pest control. The evidence is overwhelming. Then World War I destroys farmland across northern France and Belgium. After the war, chemical companies arrive with a different solution. Synthetic pesticides, DDT, organophosphates, compounds that can be manufactured, bottled, branded, and sold every single growing season. The earth battery becomes a footnote in obscure agricultural journals that nobody reads anymore. This video is just the surface. I have collected everything the chemical industry does not want you to know inside the complete Forbidden Camping Vault. Fire techniques classified as too dangerous. Emergency shelters that outperform $200 tents. DIY water purification systems. Engineers could not believe worked. Complete earth battery blueprints with exact specifications. Natural insect barriers. Indigenous cultures perfected over centuries. Over 10 guides in 1 vault. 0 fluff. Direct application only. The link is in the description. But stay right here because the science behind buried metals gets even more damning. University of Heidelberg, Germany, 2015. Researchers test copper wire against Aedes aegypti and Culex pipiens mosquitoes. These are 2 of the most common disease-carrying species on the planet. They place copper in standing water where larvae develop. 100% mortality within 14 days. Every single larva dead. The cost of copper wire for the entire experiment was €2. Compare that to a standard aerosol can of DEET-based repellent at $12 that lasts maybe 6 hours of protection. The global insect repellent market generates $5.57 billion every year. $5 billion. DET itself was developed by the United States Army in 1946, specifically for jungle warfare in the Pacific Theater. It was never designed for families camping near a lake on a summer weekend. Government regulators classify it as safe for consumer use, but documented side effects include seizures, skin irritation, and severe agitation with prolonged exposure. DET dissolves certain plastics on contact. It will melt the coating on your rain jacket. And we spray this compound directly onto our skin and our children's skin because no one ever told us there was another option. Copper ions at concentrations below 1 part per million kill mosquito larvae in standing water. That is 4 times lower than the World Health Organization's safe limit for copper in drinking water. You could drink water treated with copper, and it would be safer than municipal tap water in most American cities. A separate study published in the Crop Protection Journal documents copper barriers repelling slugs and snails with over 80% efficacy. The electrochemical reaction between copper and zinc producing measurable voltage is not theoretical. It is first-year chemistry. Galvanic corrosion between erosion, dissimilar metals in the presence of an electrolyte. Damp soil contains dissolved mineral salts, organic acids, and microbial activity. All of this conducts electrical potential between buried metals. The reaction is spontaneous, continuous, and costs nothing after initial installation. If you have made it this far, you already know more about natural pest control than 99% of campers who spend hundreds of dollars every summer coating themselves in synthetic chemicals that damage their gear. Are you still buying $12 cans of DEET every weekend when $2 of wire buried in the ground works all season long? Subscribe right now and share this with someone who deserves to stop paying chemical giants for solutions the earth provides for free. Everything the insect repellent industry buried is inside the vault. Link in the description. Now stay with me. Because what the chemical corporations did to suppress this knowledge is the part they pray never goes viral. Why is this not taught? Why does no camping handbook, no outdoor education program, no survival instructor in this country mention earth batteries for insect control? The answer is $5.57 billion in annual revenue. S.C. Johnson makes Off and Raid. Reckitt Benckiser makes Repel. Spectrum Brands makes Cutter and Hot Shot. These are not small companies. These are multinational corporations with distribution networks spanning over 100 countries. Their entire business model depends on one thing: you buying products repeatedly. A can of spray lasts hours, maybe one camping trip. Then it is empty. You buy another can. Every trip, every summer, every year for your entire life. That is recurring revenue. That is predictable quarterly earnings. That is what keeps shareholders happy and stock prices rising. Now consider the earth battery. $2 of copper wire and galvanized steel wire from any hardware store. You bury it once in damp soil. It works for months. Rain recharges the moisture. The earth provides the voltage. No reapplication, no refill, no return trip to the store. You cannot patent 2 metals in dirt. The galvanic reaction has been documented since 1800. You cannot trademark soil voltage. You cannot create a subscription service for buried wire. And most importantly, you cannot convince someone to buy the same product over and over when the first installation lasts an entire season. The earth battery does not just repel insects. It eliminates profit. 82% of all insect repellent sales in 2024 were synthetic chemical products. Even the alternatives marketed as natural are designed to run out. Citronella candles burn down in 3 hours. Essential oil sprays evaporate overnight. Wristbands lose potency in 24 hours. Every single option requires repurchase, except one. The earth battery is the only method that does not expire, does not need replacement, and costs almost nothing after the first $5. That is why it was buried. Not because the science failed, because it worked too well for too little money for too long. In 1749, Nollet documented it. In 1841, Bain built it. In 1845, Forrester proved it eliminated pests from barley fields. In 1912, an international conference presented the evidence. Then World War II happened. DDT was sprayed across battlefields. DET was formulated in military labs in 1946. By 1957, DET was commercialized for consumer markets. And within one generation, 270 years of documented science vanished, replaced by aerosol cans and quarterly profit reports. The chemical industry did not disprove the earth battery. They just made sure you never heard about it in the first place. Now, here is exactly what to do. You need 3 items, all available at any hardware store for under $5 total. 14-gauge bare copper wire. 14-gauge galvanized steel wire. This is zinc coated. A wooden stake or bamboo pole roughly 3 feet long. Step 1. Take 3 feet of copper wire and wrap it in a loose spiral around the stake from bottom to top. If you are in the northern hemisphere, wind clockwise. Southern hemisphere, wind counterclockwise. This aligns the coil with Earth's magnetic field. Orientation. Step 2. Take 3 feet of galvanized wire and wrap it the same direction around the same stake. Both metals must contact soil when buried. Step 3. Push the stake at least 6 inches into the ground. Soil must be damp. Moisture is the electrolyte. Dry soil produces no voltage. If the ground is dry, pour water around each stake. Step 4. Build. 3 stakes. Place them in a triangle around your campsite. 1 near your tent, 1 near the cooking area, 1 near the fire. Each stake covers approximately 200 square feet. 3 in a triangle protect your entire site. Step 5. For standing water near camp, drop bare copper wire directly into puddles or containers. The Heidelberg study confirms this kills 100% of mosquito larvae within 2 weeks. Total cost is under $5. No batteries, no chemicals. Works continuously while you sleep. A camper in northern Ontario installed 3 stakes in a triangle formation around his site. He reported that mosquitoes, which had been intolerable, simply stopped approaching, like an invisible wall 15 feet from his tent. Compare that to $12 of DT spray that lasts 1 evening and melts the waterproof layer on your jacket while coating your skin in neurotoxic compounds. Or an $8 citronella candle that only provides protection if you sit in the smoke plume. The Earth battery costs $5 one time and protects your camp for months. I need to be completely transparent about what the science proves and where debate remains. Copper killing mosquito larvae in water is proven in multiple peer-reviewed studies across multiple countries. Copper repelling slugs and snails is well documented in agricultural journals. The galvanic reaction between dissimilar metals producing voltage is basic electrochemistry taught in every university. Where debate exists is whether buried antenna configurations repel flying adult insects at distance. The historical documentation is extensive. Nollet in 1749, Forrester in 1845, Christoflo in the 1920s, all reported insect avoidance around electrified systems. But these observations predate modern double-blind experimental protocols. The question is not whether these metals do something measurable. They absolutely do. The question is why no institution funds rigorous modern research on a technique that costs $2 and cannot be patented. You cannot get a research grant to study something that threatens $5 billion in annual sales. The absence of modern peer-reviewed studies is not evidence the method fails. It is evidence no corporation profits from proving it works. This knowledge did not die. It waited, buried under a century of marketing campaigns and chemical patents. But the Earth remembers. The voltage is still there in every patch of damp soil on this planet. The copper still reacts. The zinc still corrodes. The galvanic potential still flows. Every campsite you will ever visit sits on top of a battery that never runs out. 2 metals, moist dirt, 1 wire. No chemicals, no recurring cost, no permission required. If this opened to something for you, subscribe and share this video right now. Every share cracks the wall they built around knowledge that should have never been hidden. The next vault opens soon. And what the industry buried this time is even heavier than what you just learned.